Once the dust settled, the children of Ibrahim stood there in shock as they looked at the corpses. Wanyanyekova walked up. "Clean yourself off and be of good cheer, because it was you or them. No more will we fight separately again. We shall fight as one from this day forward, but that first kill is." Elisha and Daniel started vomiting, and the sisters cried as Elijah stood there staring at the dead bodies. Jonathan grabbed Elijah and Joam helped the rest of them the best he could while Wanyanyekovu searched through the jet ships. Once everyone had calmed down, Wanyanyekovu called Joam and Jonathan. "What is this they are carrying?" Jonathan looked at the men's bags and said, "Remember those tiny vials that I had when I first met you?" Scratching his head, he continued, "Well, this is 50 kilos of the same stuff worth over 5 million bitcoins just for 1 kilo. And this here is roughly 250 million bitcoins. Whoever this belongs to will surely come looking for it. That's no doubt." Walking away, shaking his head, he repeated, 250 million bitcoins. Standing there thinking, Wanyanyekovu said, "Since you and Joam are the only ones who know how to ride these things, let's place these bodies on top of these jet ships, and Joy, I need you to blow all this up." Jonathan said, "No, leave a few for us." Holding up his fingers. "Jet ships, that is. Me and Elisha will do what we have to so they can't track them, and we'll bury them for later. We will train you guys and return later because these horses will continue to give us trouble as long as they have these brands on them." Wanyanyekovu said, "Okay, do what you have to." They took 15 of the sky crafts and buried them after Jonathan, and Elisha made a few modifications to them before giving Grace the go-ahead. Grace said, "Just need you guys to stand back out of my way." Within seconds, she had the jet ships and the bodies piled up as high as she could, then raced toward the rest of the group. "Go ahead, Joy." Joy held her hands out and blew up the jet ships with a charge of electricity, and the bodies began to burn. Wanyanyekovu said, "Let's be on our way. Dead bodies don't smell too good burning. Let's try to make it as far as we can because I know there had to have been tracking devices on those jet ships." As he continued, "Grace, I need you to backtrack every so often and erase our tracks." Grace was busy with something but replied, "No problem." Wanyanyekovu said, "What's that popping sound?" Grace said, "I broke a nail after all." Holding her hand up, "I'm clipping off the rest of them because fighting and looking good don't match." Wanyanyekovu and the rest laughed. Jonathan and Elisha monitored the activity around them and noticed nothing was coming in their direction. Wanyanyekovu asked Joam, "Those cube thing we used before, can they be used for all of us and the horses?" Joam replied, "Yes, but do you know how hard it is to sleep, smelling horses all night long?" Wanyanyekovu said, "True, but get with Elisha and Jonathan about a ventilation system or something because we still have about 25 miles or so before we get to the mountainous terrain." Joam said, "Why not rest here, feed and water the horses, then travel at night, if it's okay with everyone else? We can use the mountains as cover. We can use 2 cubes side by side, one for the horses and one for us." Wanyanyekovu called everyone and asked them, and everyone agreed. They installed the cubes in the mountains by the time they reached a safe location. They ate but were weary and tired, so they called it a night. Wanyanyekovu was so tired that he was asleep when his head hit the pillow. He looked around, and it appeared as if he was in the distant past when he heard the voice of a lady speaking with power and authority, saying, "Except for small pockets of resistance, Sabaoth's church collectively and globally is no longer a ministry, but it is an industry." About 200 people were standing and clapping their hands as she continued. "When a ministry becomes an industry, it is treated as a business. And businesses are driven by profits, not profits. By managers, not ministers. When profit becomes the motivating incentive, then corporations replace organizations. Corporations need products to sell, stocks to be purchased, and a successful marketing strategy to be effective. The church as a true corporation redefined by the great deceiver has turned the gospel into a product, the church body into stocks, and evangelism into a method of marketing." The crowd got up again, clapping and cheering as she continued. Ministers and preachers are now public relations managers and corporate strategists and salespersons. Broadcasts and telecasts are commercial advertising venues complete with entertainers and performers who have replaced dedicated artists and music and worship ministries. They booked ministers as motivational speakers not commissioned by God or received by pastors to preach the gospel and evangelize. Style, charisma, and image management have replaced the anointing of Sabaoth. Prominence and influence have replaced the power of the ancient Virigi. The Holy Church is being held hostage while the harlot church takes her place. She turned and pointed at Wanyanyekavu. Cush, please come forward.